forgetting his pilot's license. Where the hell is that motherfucker?
To my father's black card, to my black card.
Far Cry 3 is a tropical island simulator where you take scenic walks along the beach, you go swimming with the dolphins, and you drive a quad bike through picturesque mountain trails. At least it seems that way for the first 30 seconds of the prologue. In reality, you're an average dude named Jason Brody vacationing with his friends and super hot girlfriend before you're all captured by pirates and held for ransom.
I like this phone. This is a nice fucking phone.
After escaping from your captors, you begin to hunt down those responsible as you rescue your friends and ultimately help the natives to reclaim the island from a psychopath named Hoyt and his charismatic underling Vas.
Do you want me to slice you open like I did your friend? Shut the fuck up!
Developed by Ubisoft Montreal, Far Cry 3 was released in 2002 for PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and of course, Microsoft Windows. Far Cry 3 runs on an updated version of the Junior engine previously used in Far Cry 2, and it's a much more colourful looking game. The water effects look neat, there's some fantastic lighting as sunlight shines through foliage, and all of the weapons and character models look great as well. Overall, it's a huge game world and you'll be using vehicles to traverse the environment, combined with a wingsuit you acquire in the second half of the campaign. It seems that Ubisoft have learned from how much most people disliked the lack of fast travel points in Far Cry 2, so this time around the game world is absolutely packed with them. It also does have some performance issues, so you're going to need to do a bit of screwing around to get it running smoothly, but it's definitely a great looking game, and it does a good job of immersing you into this believable game world. It's a shame then that Far Cry 3 doesn't do the best job of making us relate to our protagonist. This is a game that takes its story very seriously, frequently using narrative points from Alice in Wonderland as comparisons to the events in the game. And it does work initially as you feel like this poor prick who's been sucked down the proverbial rabbit hole. It's just that Jason is a little bit hard to relate to. I mean, the guy is literally dating a supermodel and all of his friends look like they're background extras in a music video. But what you can relate to is the feeling of hopelessness that anyone in his predicament would be feeling. Within the first 5 minutes of the game, Jason's older brother is killed, he barely escapes a prison camp and has no idea of his whereabouts or where the rest of his friends are. With the help of a guy named Dennis, you'll get put in contact with the rebels, led by a woman named Citra, and with practically no help from either of them, you take over the island one piece at a time. You'll also work with a CIA agent named Willis and search for a tribal dagger in his series of underground tombs for a sadistic Aussie named Buck.
He said his name was...
You're hysterical.
I don't know if I should be more annoyed by the fact that Buck is Australian and yet voiced by an Irish guy, or the fact that the only Aussie in this game is a sadomasochist that just wants to rape everyone. Should I be offended that 90% of the male characters in this game are utter psychopaths? No, I shouldn't, because this is a video game.
Willis sent me.
How is he?
Anyway, the best of the bunch is a guy named Vas, who just really steals every single scene he's in because he's the type of character you just don't often see that much in gaming. He's unpredictable, he's psychopathic, but he's also very charismatic and has a bizarre way of looking at the world, and no one else really compares to him. Everyone else is just so boring. Your motivation to find and kill him actually has a real purpose, and he's much more than just the token bad guy. And overall, the campaign is all about carving a path to Vas, and the way you do this is by completing story and side missions. You also clear outposts which act as fast travel points and climb radio towers to reveal the map and unlock free weapons. I'd say about 20% of the game's content is the campaign, and the other 80% is all the various side shit you'd expect in an Ubisoft game. You know, collecting several hundred chests of useless trinkets, finding a bunch of collectibles, all that kind of thing. As you progress through the game and carry out all these actions, you earn experience points which slowly earn you upgrade points that can be spent on 3 skill trees. And these skills are all encompassing, from decreasing reload times for weapons, the amount of health you have and your resistance to damage of all kinds, through to unlocking new techniques for taking enemies down stealthily. This kind of works directly with the narrative, showing Jason coming to the island as this guy who is totally out of his element, to someone who begins to show adverse effects to his surroundings, becoming more proficient with weapons and also beginning to almost enjoy himself during certain sequences. You even have to progress through to certain points in the campaign before most of these skills are even available. Even Jason's motivations as a character begin to change. He goes from just wanting to escape the island to wanting to kill everyone responsible for this predicament and shunning his friends in the process. It's such a subtle progression that you almost don't notice it. I mean, you go from getting your ass kicked in every gunfight to becoming the ass kicker, leaping from the bushes and taking bad guys out with your machete or gunning down waves of them with ease. As a result of this, it can be a few hours before you truly settle into an enjoyable rhythm with the gameplay. On that note, Far Cry 3 has no shortage of weapons, from shotguns, pistols, grenade launchers, sniper rifles, through to less conventional weapons like flamethrowers and recurve bows. All of the weapons can be purchased from stores at all of the various outposts, but as I mentioned, you can also unlock free weapons from simply climbing radio towers. Furthermore, all of the guns can be customized by including up to 3 attachments, like suppressors or extended magazines, as well as changing their appearance with a new paint job. The amount of weapons you can carry, as well as the maximum ammunition, also feeds into the crafting system, which is quite a fundamental part of the gameplay. So the way this works is that whenever you kill certain animals on the island, you can skin them and craft something out of their remains, like bigger ammo pouches, a larger wallet to hold more cash, or an extended quiver for your bows. There's various plants around the island as well, which are used to craft syringes, from a simple healing syringe to one that lets you breathe underwater. There's really a lot of stuff to contend with, and like I said, it all falls back to this narrative of Jason turning into this kind of warrior figure, slowly becoming more powerful and competent throughout the campaign. Unlike Far Cry 2, which didn't really accommodate stealth over shooting, Far Cry 3 has a much more developed stealth system. Whenever you're crouching, you are much harder to detect, and if you're hiding inside bushes or in taller grass, it also compounds this effect. Before you're outright detected, it starts to fill up a semicircle around the crosshair, which gives you a limited window to break their line of sight. But the way enemies often behave during these moments doesn't quite make sense. If you ever miss a shot, I'm talking a single shot, for some reason this gives enemies precise coordinates to your exact location. You could be on a mountaintop overlooking the place you're trying to attack, and they will somehow deduce your position and all start running straight in your direction. Even if you move to a new location at this point, they'll always kind of wander in the new direction you went, and it makes no sense. Also, when they're in an alerted state, they can pretty much spot you instantly regardless of the distance you are from them, and that semicircle's gonna fill up faster than shit through a goose. The shooting is what you'd expect. There's no sense of balancing as they just throw dozens of enemies at you. And it's true that shooting every asshole instead of playing the game like Solid Snake is a perfectly viable option. But you get up to 3 times the amount of experience for taking a stealthy route, so most players will invariably find themselves opting for it. And that's when you'll notice how shoddy it can often be. It's obvious reading original reviews for Far Cry 3 that most of those people never made it to the second island before they wrote them, and truth be told, the game loses a lot of steam during the second half of the campaign. At this point, you're almost back to square one, having to climb more radio towers and take over outposts, though it does seem the developers were aware of how tedious this might have been, and included already existing fast travel points around the second island. Ultimately, how much someone enjoys Far Cry 3, I really think is going to come down to their own playstyle. I mean, if you drive a Jeep down the middle of the road, run into missions with a machine gun, and wonder why you're dying all the time, then yeah, you're not going to have much fun. Scope locations out with your camera, sneak in and take enemies out silently with skill and timing, however, and you'll enjoy it a lot more. I mean, I wouldn't call Far Cry 3 a thinking man's game, but it does reward common sense and patience over running in guns blazing. It's just the kind of game that really wants you to get immersed with it. Spend time upgrading Jason's abilities, take over the map one section at a time, and become this unstoppable warrior that reclaims the island from a bunch of pirates. I really do think the island in Far Cry 3 also feels much more believable, like it goes on around you as opposed to Far Cry 2 where it felt like you were the one making things happen. In Far Cry 3 there's animals running around, you'll see someone on the side of the road repairing their vehicle, and settlements are full of NPCs who are all just meandering around. It feels more like a real place than just a series of locations. Now look, there are things I didn't like, and I don't want to sound like I've got my tongue up this game's asshole. Compared to the previous game, the technology feels a lot simpler, like there is very little interaction with the foliage and vegetation, something that was quite dynamic in Far Cry 2. Starting fires also seems much less likely to burn out of control unless it's scripted to do so for a particular mission. Subjectively, they've also removed weapon degradation, with weapons never jamming up or needing to be replaced over time, and the buddy system is also non-existent, replaced by the absolutely useless Rakyat warriors. But Far Cry 3 is entertaining, and as far as I'm concerned, that's really all that matters. It's a shame it takes itself so seriously, but still, in terms of bang for the buck, Far Cry 3 ticks all the boxes. About the only objective problem with Far Cry 3 is running the game through Uplay, but aside from that, I can't see any reason to not recommend this game, unless you're just one of those people who automatically hates AAA games by default. Now, did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
That's one down. That's it. I'm out of here.